I know these comic books, but I don't know the seller. Hey there, today I have an unboxing video, and in this video, I'm going to open up an order I placed with Atomic Avenue from another seller that I haven't ordered from before, and I'm just continuing on this quest of trying to find the best sellers, the best customer service, and the highest quality comic books I can find. And unfortunately, this process can get expensive as I continue to order from new sellers all the time. I will open up their orders, grade their books, and then I will catalog those grades and then compare the grades from each seller against each other to figure out over time who is sending me the best comic books. It's a pretty simple idea, simple formula. It's just a matter of keeping up with the orders, which I'm still trying to catch up on, and making sure that I'm individually grading by hand each book myself. And a lot of times, as I'm posting my value picks on Instagram, I will continue to research and try to find new books to share, and the same books keep showing up on my list, and their priority keeps rising. And I have to kind of pull the trigger and grab some of these books myself. And some of the value is really added more once you take the plunge and get the book professionally graded. But what I try to do is make sure that the money that I'm spending to acquire these books raw is somewhat around the fair market value so that, I'm just trying to continually lower my risk. Now, what I've noticed is a lot of times with these sorts of orders, I'm not always buying key books. I'm certainly not purchasing grails sight unseen. And I often kind of go through my orders and think, why am I purchasing these books? What's the point? Am I really going to get all of these graded? And it would make it for a nice experiment where if I can take some of these books that end up popping at 9.8, 9.6 that have that value graded and take them all, add them up, and maybe even trade up to acquire a major key or even a personal grail to add to the collection. It's something that I've thought about doing, but I've always hesitated to do any sort of trading. And I feel like I would rather sell my books for cash and then turn around and spend that money on the grail. But it has crossed my mind to maybe take some of these books that I'm acquiring for, anywhere from $2 to $10 that would have 9.8 value of 100, and then take 5 to 10 of those, just doing the basic math, turning that into $500 or $1,000, and then using the proceeds from those sales to go ahead and purchase a grail. So it is something that I'm considering doing. I think it would be a fun experiment just to kind of see just how far I could take it. It kind of reminds me of that old trading up sort of game where you start with like a paperclip and you keep trading and bartering, and eventually you're selling things, and then you buy some more, and you kind of end up with a car or something crazy. It does feel a little bit like that. It feels a little bit out there, but I do feel like it's possible. So I want to go ahead and unbox this order and show you the books, and then at the very end I'll show you what I paid for them. But I continue to find books like this that are in high grade, that maybe have a couple of creases, some pressable defects, where you're just getting them at such great value. It's just relatively low. And one of the sort of hidden things about Atomic Avenue is, yes, that there are stock photos for the books, but the prices for the books fluctuate with the market. Now, I don't know, I don't have any insider information as far as what systems Atomic Avenue is using to perform their pricing adjustments. But a lot of times, if you're eyeballing a $20 book, tomorrow it might be 17, and it's not because the seller has changed their mind on the price. It's auto adjusting. Now, as a seller on that platform, you don't have to do that. You can set your own static price. But unless you do specify that, then your sale price can adjust by some percentage or dollar amount based on what internally Atomic Avenue says the book is worth. And that's why I was explaining earlier where some of these value picks or books that I feel are worth investing in raw because it does have that graded value, because they do have that additional value if they're in high grade and you can get them graded. Those will actually become even more prioritized because for whatever reason on Atomic Avenue the price could be dropping because it's relative to the market. The last little hidden secret about it is a little bit kind of like what eBay does, where if something you're trying to sell doesn't sell, it can be relisted for a lesser amount. The same thing works on Atomic Avenue. If you want to sell on the platform, you can list a book at $10, but then as you're listing the book, you can actually tell the platform to reduce the price regardless of the market value. You can just say, I'm going to list it for 10, reduce it by 2% every day or every week or whatever the frequency is. And so as I'm going through and I'm looking at prices and values and trying to figure out what's going to be my next purchase, I will notice that some of these books that I've identified as having more upside and potential in high grade or high quality condition, they'll become even more of a value pick over time. And at some point, you kind of have to just pull the trigger and buy the books. You can't wait for everything to drop in value. Someone else may get it, or the book may go back up in value. So the timing of how you acquire these books is certainly critical and important. But let me get to the comics themselves. I'm going to unbox this order from a seller I've not purchased from before, so I'm really curious to see what condition these books are in. Okay, here is that order of comics that I placed on Atomic Avenue. It's from a seller named Ben Alexander Actor. I assume he's a world-famous actor just selling comic books online. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. Sent media mail, of course, but as long as you put "Do not Ben, please" on the box, then it arrives safely in your home. So here we go. All right, I think I'm finally in. I was using all of the most popular breathing and techniques to remain calm. All three of my therapists told me to breathe a very specific certain way if I start to feel anxious. And peeling tape off of comic books is one of the things that probably gives me the most anxiety in this hobby. This super sticky, crazy green tape. As I was peeling the tape off the books, I felt the comics starting to bend, and I had to stop. The packing was fine. It was in kind of a reverse Gemini mailer, and then the books were like this with the tape. Like even a paper bag or something, just wrap the books so they don't slide around. That's really all you want, is just some sort of internal holder so they don't slide around, and then just tape that, and that's it. And then just one thing that I used to use when I would ship books, but it was a little redundant, was you could buy kind of it was almost like a bag for putting clothes in, something flimsy. If you order like a t-shirt from Amazon, it comes in this sort of bag. And you could almost like just use that. They're super cheap, just like flat plastic. There's no bubble wrap in it. You don't even have to do that. There was no bubble wrap in this order. He basically just crossed his fingers and assumed that the Gemini mailer and the media mail would suffice. So anyway, just drives me crazy sometimes, but let's get to the comics. Something positive. Here we go. All right. First book is Batman 457. And this is the first appearance of Tim Drake's new Robin costume. So I'm not stalking Tim Drake or anything weird. I know I just opened up his first character appearance, but this is the first appearance of him in his new Robin costume. There he is in shadows right on the cover. It's, I guess, technically a key, but I would consider it to be a minor key at best. Looks to be in pretty good shape. Down there in the corner, a little bit of softening there, color breaking, but spine looks pretty good, so not bad there. Next book, Batman 453. And love this one. This is Mike Mignola on the cover here. So this was definitely a cover buy. I love those Mignola covers on the two big publisher books before he went independent. Next up is Amazing Spider-Man #1. This is from 1999. I think this is technically volume 2 of Amazing Spider-Man. This is the first issue of all of the Amazing Spider-Man reboots where they're on volume 17 or something crazy. And no, there's no significance there. It just so happens to be the issue where they decided to reboot it, and it had pretty good value at this price. So I wanted to grab that. Back to Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1, though. This is Amazing Spider-Man 348. This features artwork by Eric Larson, who took over after McFarlane, and this one guest stars the Avengers. Next one is Amazing Spider-Man 343, similar to 348, also illustrated by Eric Larson, and just lots of great value in these ASM Volume 1 books. All right, I grabbed Catwoman #1. This is the Jim Balent era of Catwoman, which some people love this iteration of Catwoman and the character design. Some people do not. But Balent does definitely have his own style there with Catwoman. This one is an embossed cover. I'm going to try not to touch any of the embossing here while I'm being recorded. But for the most part, this looks to be a pretty strong copy again. I'm seeing a little bit of softening in the corner, but not too bad. But the spine looks pretty good. Yeah, and same thing with that corner. Just a touch of softening. That I don't know if that would push it down into a 9.6 automatically, but corners are not perfect or super sharp on some of these books, but the spine looks pretty good. Next is Spawn #8. And if you can kind of see behind me here, trying to go for a run of 9/8 of characters done by McFarlane in this pose. So I'm on the lookout for this book in high grade. This was indicated as includes poster. Looks to be a really, really nice copy. Again, these were bought, listed as near mint. I didn't ask for photos or anything. I just grabbed them as is. Looks to be pretty good. So not too bad there. Next is Spider-Man #12. Again, McFarlane, Wolverine, Spider-Man, very recognizable. And I was watching a recent auction of a CGC 9.6 white pages of this book, and it closed at $51, which is not, again, we're talking about $50 plus if you think about the cost to get the book graded and all of that and to acquire the book. I totally understand that. I'm not trying to get these books to get them in 9.6 to sell them for $50 to make $3 or $4 in profit. What I'm doing is I am buying these books to try and get them in at 9.8, but if it does fall back into 9.6, I can recuperate all of my costs and my effort to get it and try again. And so that's where some books, the drop off from 9.8 to 9.6 is so huge, or there's no real value in 9.6 altogether. But these books do. They have a little bit of value in 9.6, which allows you to assume a certain risk. And with these, it's minimal risk, right? These books are very, very affordable. So I try and grab these anytime I can, these early McFarlane Spider-Man, whether it's the Spider-Man proper series or Amazing Spider-Man. This one looks great. Again, same issue, just a little bit of a corner problem right there. I don't know there's not much I can do with that in terms of pressing. Same goes for that corner, just a touch of softening, which you can get by with that. But basically what it means is the rest of the book just has to be pristine and perfect in order to get the 9.8. Next up, this was a really cool cover that I researched. Mark Silvestri on the cover of Wolverine #36. That's not actually Silvestri. He did the cover art. But this was a book that I came across, and I just thought it was a fun cover. Wolverine with his brown and yellow costume, almost just going out guns blazing Punisher style. Blood and Claws Part 2, It Tolls for Thee. Love all the lettering on here. And ended up looking up some of the values and shared it out on Instagram as a value pick. Unfortunately, same issue as the others. Looks to be a really strong copy when you look at the spine, which is excellent. But then you get down into the corners, and for some reason, all of these corners just are a little soft. So This is one of those where, if everything's really clean, doesn't, no dirt, no pressing really needed, these would be great candidates for a 9/8 pre-screen, just to see, where CGC stands with the softening on these corners. All right, the last book, I always hesitate to say like a classic cover, because I think to each their own on that. But for me, this is a great Rogue and Gambit cover on X-Men 24. Andy Kubert with the cover art here. And same thing, just a little bit of a corner issue at the top there. Spine looks great. No color breaks. For this book in particular, you usually see them right there in the black and maroon or dark orange. That's where all of those color breaking spine ticks come in. And this looks really nice. Looks like a great copy. Down there in the corner again. I feel like the conditions of all of these books are roughly the same, where you've got just a slight corner issue. But like I said, these might go in my pre-screen pile, where half of them may come back at a 9/8 and half of them may come back with a 9/6, just depending on the severity of the bindery tearing or the corner softening that you'd see on those books. So let me show you what I paid for these books, compare them to fair market values, and then kind of play around with the numbers if I were to get these graded, and see if I was able to add any value to my collection. Okay, here is the order that I placed with Atomic Avenue on June 2nd, 2022 from the seller Ben Alexander Actor. It was a $66.15 order. I did have to pay $11.15 shipping. Now, to me, this was a calculated risk where I felt like the books were priced at a certain level where even if I were to add the shipping cost to the order, then I would still, from a fair market value perspective, be okay. Now, what's annoying, but there's nothing I can do about it, is I paid the seller $11.15 and it was sent media mail for $3.82. So the seller went off for about $8 in profit just off of shipping. And that's the problem with not just Atomic Avenue, eBay, and it's been a problem even back when I was a kid trying to buy sports cards, sending personal checks. I mean, it's just, they're going to figure out a way to nickel and dime something to make a few extra dollars, and again, it'll be up to me, essentially, if I want to continue buying from this seller. From the looks of it, these books are in high grade, probably in that 9.4 to 9.6 range. So, again, sometimes there's a trade-off. And in this case, it may be that you're going to pay a lot for shipping, and they're going to make off with a few extra dollars by sending it media mail. Now, when I compare these books to the fair market value, and I just take the total cost here and apply it across the 10 books, then if my math is correct, down here in column Z, $66.15 matches my invoice of $66.15, and then I know that shipping cost has been distributed evenly across the order. Now, when I compare column Z to column U, which is the cover price fair market value, and with that, I feel like I have to explain this every time because cover prices changed it, but the fair market value is represented in cover price now by the most common or frequently sold at grade. I'm still trying to come to terms with that change because I'm not always sure if that really accurately represents the FMV. And what I mean is, if you pull up a grid of books, down at the bottom, there's just an FMV amount. And that used to be just an FMV across all grades, and now they specify a grade. I'm not exactly sure what to do with that. I just kind of go with that value still for now. But in any case, I do feel like it's more or less the most accurate representation of fair market value, but I'm still mulling that over. But if I do the comparison, it looks from a raw book value perspective to be a gain of $13.85 of additional value that I've added to my collection. So not bad. So that means $66.15 went back in addition to that, a $13.85 positive gain. So in this case, as compared to previous unboxings, just from the raw book perspective, this seems like a good purchase. Now remember, that's after that $11 shipping as well. So if it was free shipping, then I would have stand to gain, closer to even $25, actually $25 even there. Now, the biggest winner here is that Amazing Spider-Man 343. I paid $4.12, and it currently has a fair market value of $10. So a nice $5.89 gain on that one. And then Spider-Man 12, again, I'm paying $3.62 for that. So again, we're talking about a $2 to $4 book. It has a fair market value of $7. It just sold in a CGC 9.6 white pages for $51. Again, my mind is just starting to wonder, like, could I really take a $3 investment, get it graded, and then use that book not just to sell it and say, hey, I made a profit, but use it to build to buy another book of even more and greater value? Or can I take 3 of these that are all worth 100? And we'll do this here where I'll add my potential grade in here and see what those values are if they were slapped. Just to kind of finish off some of the analysis here, Amazing Spider-Man #1 was a $7.62 purchase. It has a fair market value of $10. That was one of the reasons I bought it. I saw that it popped for $10 for a nice $2.39 gain. Now, they're not all winners. It looks like Batman 457. I paid $11.12 for that book. That was the first appearance of Tim Drake in a new Robin outfit, and only has a fair market value of $8. So that was a loss of $3.12. But overall, even with that book losing $3, a nice $13.85 gain. Now, with all of these books being near mint, if I did assign a grade of 9.4, let's see if these have any value in a CGC 9.4, and they do. Now, overall, if I sent all of these books into CGC, it's, again, kind of a break even. Is it really worth your time to make $21 off of this order? This isn't the goal. The idea is not to get these in 9.4. The goal is to get them in 9.8. The reason that I show you this, though, is because in a worst case scenario, if these were truly 9.4 near mint condition books that were certified in that grade by CGC, then in a worst case, you'd get your money back. So this is where I talk about lowering your risk. So these were extremely low risk, but also low buy-in, which I love, high reward. Just looking over the list here, we've got X-Men 24, $55 for that book in a 9.4. Really not a bad pickup for $13.12. And even though Batman 457 was a loss in the fair market value raw comparison, when you look at that book graded in a 9.4, it's $64, and it's actually the biggest gainer or potential gainer in this order of over $20. Now, for the fun part is, do these books that have a really, really nice, near perfect spine, but with a little bit of bindery tearing or corner softening, would any of those books pass for a 9.8? And if they did, what values are we looking at? So just for this small order, 10 books, nothing outrageous, nothing crazy, a gain of $858 of value that could be added into my collection. And that's after I account for all of the fees to get these books graded, shipping to CGC and all of that. A lot of nice, sneaky value. Those 2 ASM books, the Eric Larson books, 146 for $343 and 130 for $348 is the current 9.8 value for those books graded by CGC. The Batman books are weird. $453, that great Mignola cover, $150 in a 9.8. Again, that's a really nice presentable book by a well-known artist. $457 jumps up to $128 in a 9.8. And the big book here was that Wolverine 36 with that Silvestri cover. $225 for that book in a 9.8, which would put that book as the largest gainer for me in terms of value at $186.70. But really not bad. The 453 is over $100 gain, as is that Amazing Spider-Man 343. So on the surface with this order, it's looking like another typical order that I would place. It's the more Amazing Spider-Man, more McFarlane books, a Batman, a Catwoman, an X-Men. Like, I get it. This is the stuff that you buy. Yeah, this is the stuff. I love getting these. I love the books themselves, all from the early 90s, but it's in that pre-Image 90. I know the Spawn #8 obviously is from the Image era, but I love looking at these books in the pre-Image where you get all of those great Image creators back and looking at X-Men and Wolverine, Amazing Spider-Man, where it's just before they made the jump. Because those are the books, again, if you're talking about some of the most recognizable artists of our generation, we think about the image creators. So I love looking at these books, and I love seeing, again, kind of the sneaky value of some of these, because I think a lot of these covers may not be the most classic of covers, but certainly when you're looking at it saying this is an Eric Larson cover, a Jim Balent cover, Todd McFarlane, Andy Kubert, like these are names that you know, and they're creating artwork and covers and doing interiors on books that you know. And these are the books that are going to continue to have value. They're not going to have those volatile spikes that maybe some of your other books would have, where you're trying to kind of top out the market in selling, or you're trying to brag share on social media about a book being undervalued or something. You want to try and see if you can inflate the price back up to where it was because it's some random modern book. That's a full-time job. I can't do that. I love looking at these books. I really do feel like this is a good time to take books like these, assuming if I grade each book and they're in that borderline 9.6 to 9.8, throw them all into a pre-screen, let them come back. And of course, I don't always believe that every book would come back 9.8, but you'd have to think about what if in that one chance you finally have that seller that you trust. They're sending you those books, and even if half of them came back in 9.8, you know, it's somewhere between $350 to $500 depending on which books came back. And then to exchange that for a key book that you've always wanted for the same price point, if you really think about it, there's no one in their right mind. And I'd have to do the research to find out which key, as I'd use it as an example. But if there was, I mean, I could use even X-Men 101. If there was an X-Men 101, which I have up here in a 5.0, but if X-Men 101 in a 6 or a 6.5 was around that $500 price point, and I tried to convince you I'm going to trade you 5 of these for it, you'd say there's no way. But if I had this in a 9.8 and I was able to cut somebody a deal and sell it for $90 or 100 or 110, and I had 5 of those, it's a completely different story at that point. Let me know what you think. Leave me a comment. What do you think about this idea of like trading up, where you're buying raw, you're trying to find sneaky value, you get it in 9.8, you sell the 9.8, and try and use those proceeds for a grail? I mean, it sounds like a no-brainer, but is it really possible? I'd love to get your feedback on that. Thanks for watching, happy collecting, and see you next time.